June 30th, 1908, a Tuesday morning. The sun is barely up over the remote Siberian wilderness, and then the sky tears open. A blinding pillar of blue light streaks across the heavens, brighter than the sun itself. The ground shakes, the air ignites, and in a fraction of a second, 80 million trees are vaporized, snapped, and hurled to the ground like matchsticks. No warning, no explanation, no crater, just destruction. Now here's the part that should keep you up at night. Scientists later calculated, if this event had happened just 4 hours and 47 minutes later, the city of St. Petersburg, home to millions of people, would have been completely wiped off the map. The only thing that saved it? To understand what happened, you need to picture where it happened. The Podkamennaya Tunguska River, central Siberia, one of the most isolated, unreachable places on the planet. In 1908, there were no roads leading there, no telegraph lines, no railways, just endless, ancient forest, the taiga, stretching for thousands of kilometers in every direction. The local people, the Evenki, an indigenous group who had lived in these forests for generations, were the closest witnesses. One of them, a woman named Akulina, was in her tent near the Chamb River that morning with her husband Ivan and their guests. What they experienced is almost impossible to describe. First came the light, a column of blue-white fire, moving fast across the sky, faster than anything they had ever seen. Then the heat, like standing too close to an open furnace. Then, the shock wave. The ground lurched, tents collapsed, people were thrown off their feet, horses scattered into the trees in blind panic. And then came the sound, a noise so enormous, so world-ending, that it was heard over 1,000 kilometers away. Seismographs as far as England registered it. Barometers in Britain picked up fluctuations in atmospheric pressure. The shock wave circled the globe, twice. For the next 2 nights, the skies over Europe and Western Russia glowed. People in London could read newspapers by the eerie light at midnight. Scientists in Northern Ireland noted a strange, nocturnal glow in their observatory logbooks. Even though there was no moon, something enormous had just happened, and nobody knew what. Here's where things get strange, because the world mostly ignored it. In 1908, Russia was a country on the edge of upheaval. Revolution was brewing. Then came the First World War. Then the Russian Revolution of 1917. Then Civil War. In the chaos of that era, a remote explosion in an empty Siberian forest was nobody's priority. It wasn't until 1921, 13 years later, that the first real investigation began. A Russian mineralogist named Leonid Kulik came across accounts from local Evenki survivors and became obsessed. He convinced the Soviet Academy of Sciences to fund an expedition. What he expected to find was a massive crater filled with meteorite fragments. What he found instead left him speechless. The destruction was breathtaking in scale. Trees had been flattened across an area of over 2,000 square kilometers, larger than the city of London. They lay in perfect radial patterns pointing outward from a central point, like a clock face, every hand pointing away from 12. But at the epicenter itself, there was no crater, no meteorite, nothing but scorched, branchless trees still standing upright, like burned matchsticks. The explosion had come from above, not below. Kulik spent years trying to solve it. He made expedition after expedition into that brutal Siberian wilderness. He found microscopic metallic spheres embedded in the soil and in the wood of trees, spheres with a high nickel-to-iron ratio, the chemical signature of something extraterrestrial, but no rock, no mass, no source. In the century since, scientists have pieced together what almost certainly occurred. Somewhere in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, a rock, roughly 50 to 60 meters wide, about the size of a 6-story building, broke free of its orbit. It had been drifting through the solar system for perhaps millions of years. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, it hit Earth's atmosphere at a speed of approximately 27 kilometers per second. That's Mach 80, nearly 100,000 kilometers per hour. At that velocity, friction with the atmosphere is not survivable. the rock began to heat to over 24,000 degrees Celsius, hotter than the surface of the sun. At an altitude of somewhere between 5 and 10 kilometers above the Siberian forest, the pressure became too great. The object exploded, not like a bomb, like a star. An airburst that unleashed energy equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT. To put that in perspective, the bomb dropped on Hiroshima released 15 kilotons. The Tunguska explosion was roughly 1,000 times more powerful. The fireball vaporized itself completely, which is why there was no crater, no fragment large enough to survive. Just an invisible hammer of superheated air slamming downward at the speed of sound, flattening everything beneath it. The Royal Observatory Greenwich later estimated that if the same explosion happened over modern London, nothing inside the M25 motorway, a ring road encircling the entire city, would be left standing. Zero. It would be as if a thermonuclear device had gone off in the heart of civilization. And now, the most unsettling part of this entire story. The Tunguska event struck a remote wilderness where almost no one lived. The total confirmed human casualties? Possibly 2 or 3 people, possibly none. It was, by the most extraordinary luck imaginable, one of the least populated regions of the Earth. But here's what scientists worked out, and what the Guinness Book of World Records actually noted. Due to the rotation of the Earth, had that asteroid arrived just 4 hours and 47 minutes later, our planet would have rotated to place the glittering capital of St. Petersburg, one of Europe's most populated and magnificent cities, directly beneath the explosion. An airburst of 15 megatons over St. Petersburg in 1908 would have killed hundreds of thousands of people instantly. It would have decapitated the Russian Empire at one of the most volatile moments in its history. The political shockwaves alone could have rewritten the entire 20th century. No Russian Revolution in the form we know it. Perhaps no Soviet Union. Perhaps no Cold War. History. All of modern history, pivoting on the blind rotation of a planet through space. That's the margin between remote Siberian mystery and the end of civilization as we know it. And the terrifying truth is, we had no warning. No detection system. No planetary defense. In 1908, we didn't even know this had happened for weeks. The most powerful impact in recorded human history struck the Earth, and the world barely noticed. Of course, a mystery this massive doesn't stay quiet for long. In the decades after the event, with no crater and no meteorite, people began to fill the void with other explanations. After the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, a Russian science fiction writer named Alexander Kazantsev proposed a bold new theory. What if Tunguska had been a nuclear explosion? And if so, the only way that was possible in 1908 was if an alien spacecraft powered by nuclear fuel had exploded in the atmosphere. It sounds absurd, but the theory stuck in popular culture for decades. Others pointed to the eccentric genius Nikola Tesla, who was experimenting with his famous death ray, a long-range energy transmission device, in 1908. Some claimed that Tesla had accidentally fired a beam of energy halfway around the world and triggered the Tunguska explosion. Tesla himself never confirmed or denied it. There were theories about antimatter, about a miniature black hole passing through the Earth, about underground methane gas eruptions. But modern science has settled on the most elegant answer, the one Occam's razor would choose: a stony asteroid, roughly the size of a building, that exploded in the air. And in 2013, that theory got its most powerful confirmation yet, when a much smaller asteroid, just 20 meters wide, exploded over the Russian city of Chelyabinsk. It injured over 1,500 people from shockwave damage alone. And it showed the world, once again, that the sky is not always a safe place. In 2016, the United Nations officially designated June 30th as International Asteroid Day, in direct recognition of the 1908 Tunguska event. Because of Tunguska, and the fear it represents, NASA established the Planetary Defense Coordination Office. Space agencies around the world now track thousands of near-Earth objects. In 2022, NASA's DART mission successfully redirected a small asteroid in space for the first time in history. We are slowly learning to watch the sky. But here is the question that should haunt you as you go about your day. In 1908, the most powerful impact in recorded human history occurred in one of the most isolated places on Earth. The object was about the size of an office building. It left no crater. It destroyed 2,000 square kilometers of forest. And we didn't see it coming. There are estimated to be tens of thousands of near-Earth objects of similar size that we haven't yet cataloged. Any one of them could be on a collision course right now. And the only thing standing between us and catastrophe, as it was on that June morning over Siberia, might simply be where the Earth happens to be pointing when they arrive. The universe is vast, and it is indifferent. But sometimes, just sometimes, it flinches. And on June 30th, 1908, over the empty forests of Siberia, it flinched just enough. The Tunguska Event remains the largest impact in recorded human history. Royal Observatory, Greenwich. If you want more stories about the moments that almost ended civilization, or the mysteries that science still hasn't fully solved, subscribe, because we're just getting started.